Hello, everybody. It is November 27th, 2013. The time is... Oh, I didn't set my time. It's Wednesday. Hold on. I'll look on my smartphone to see what time. 11 hours, 42 minutes Pacific Standard Time. I'm trying to talk out of one side of my mouth like Dick Cheney. Or, does anybody remember Canadian Prime Minister Jean Chretien? I think the French pronunciation is Jean Chretien, but I always called him Jean Chretien. Anyways, Jean Chretien had a funny way of talking. He talked out of the side of his mouth. So one day, a day after, at a news conference, Jean Chretien, Prime Minister Jean Chretien, was asked about why his bully boys had sprayed a protester with pepper spray. Now, this was industrial-sized pepper spray. That boy, he was an RMP officer. He was a police, and I swear, this pepper spray was the size of a old-fashioned fire extinguisher. And anywho, he was using it on protesters at some protest. And they asked the Prime Minister about it the next day, because them protesters was just protesting. And they enjoyed protesting. But the Prime Minister, they said, Mr. Prime Minister, he didn't have a New York accent, but I'll use one anyway. Mr. Prime Minister, why did you have the RCMP spray that poor protester with pepper spray? And the Prime Minister feigned ignorance of what pepper spray is, and he said, famously, "For me, pepper, I put it on my plate." So that's how he talked. And I never liked Jean Chretien after he broke his first campaign promise, which was to get rid of the GST. Jean Chretien, while he was running for election in 1993 against then Prime Minister, what was the name of that Yiddish-speaking broad? Unelected, and after Mulroney hightailed it out of Dodge, she took Kim Carney? No, Kim Campbell. And anyways, Jean Chretien was running against her, and he said Mulroney had introduced a new tax called the GST, the Grief and Suffering Tax, because the Canadian people had refused to approve the Meech Lake Accord, which they didn't like. Y'all can read about it on the Cadillac of all online references, equivalent to the prestigious Encyclopedia Britannica, and it's called Wikipedia. No, but the Prime Minister said, now that was the GST, the Grief and Suffering Tax, and he said, "Look, if you elect me Prime Minister, I promise to get rid of the GST." And he never did. But I liked old Jean Chretien. He called himself the little boy from Shawinigan, and he was neither a boy nor little. So, of course, he wasn't big like I'm big. I think he was like at least 6 foot, probably a little more than 6 foot. Anywho, it's November 27th. And, I'll open my eyes so you can see my pretty baby blues a little bit more. Anywho, that light on the wall, they's Christmas lights, and they look real pretty. But, for some reason, I don't understand it. The camera's making it look just like one big light. And I gotta tell y'all, I'm so scared. There's a comet coming. And I'm afraid tomorrow it's going to have a rendezvous with the sun. And I'm afraid that the sun going to tear it up. and it's gonna quit existing. But somebody said, quit crying. Okay, I'll quit crying. Now, hey, I can turn on the tears when I want. I guess I should be in Hollywood. Do you know if Tom Hanks or Tom Cruise or some other leading man needs a gargantuan fat sidekick in order to make him look even better? And if you do, tell, the Hollywood moguls to give me a call through my YouTube channel. Oh, I bought some pretzels yesterday at the dollar store. Now, I don't usually buy food at the dollar store because often it's made in China. And we know that they have rather questionable quality control, at least over the dog food. And, but I saw some Schultz. But look how Schultz is spelled. They left out the C, which is a dead giveaway for Pennsylvania Dutch. And sure enough, I turned it around. And where's it made? Lancaster, PA. That's smack dab in the middle of Pennsylvania Dutch country. Actually, it's closer to the western fringes of Pennsylvania Dutch country. Speaking of which, do y'all know what the unofficial capital of Pennsylvania Dutch country is? Actually, when I'm talking that way, I should use a Pennsylvania Dutch accent. She said, nah. Do you people know what the capital of Pennsylvania Dutch, the unofficial capital of Pennsylvania Dutch country is? Why? It's Kutztown. Now, to y'all Yankees, what don't know about Pennsylvania Dutch country, I didn't say Cookstown, C-O-O-K-S town. I said Kutztown, K-U-T-Z-T-O-W-N. Kutztown, PA. Now that's Kutztown, 1953-0. Reason why I add the zip code is as follows. There's a much smaller Kutztown. I believe it's near Myerstown, isn't it? But it is a tale of two Kutztowns. Now there's no Kutztowns in Germany simply because they don't have no towns there with T-O-W-N in it. But there is a Kutzburg, and I believe it's in Baden-Württemberg. But y'all gonna have to check up on that to make sure. And I never hear from any of my Pennsylvania Dutch fans, or from fans of the Pennsylvania Dutch language. I think it's because I'm a little bit too silly for them. But I mean, when I read my excerpts from Pennsylvania Dutch, I tries to be serious, baby. Lord knows I'm just trying to help you and make you laugh. I've always tried to do an imitation of Sheriff Taylor and Deputy Barney Fife, but it's sort of hit and miss. It's okay. Please imagine, if you will, this scene. The boys are standing out, right in back, crouched down in back of their squad car, in front of a bank. Some bank robbers just ran out of. And Barney's saying, "Can I kill him, Andy? Can I kill him? Can I shoot him?" And Andy says, "Now, Barney, don't use the gun." I can't do a good impression of them, though. Speaking of impressions, I wanted to say one thing. I commemorate the 22nd of November, 1963, the 50th anniversary of the murder of our beloved President, John F. Kennedy. And under these circumstances, I will not do an impression of him, but I will quote him. And somebody asked the president what his definition of happiness was. And he, to paraphrase JFK, he paraphrased the Greeks. And he said something like, I suppose the ancient Greeks would define happiness as the full use of your powers along lines of excellence. Now, that wasn't an impression of JFK. That was actually one of my New York accents. But anyways, so President Kennedy's the first president I ever remember. Now, I was born during the reign of President Eisenhower. By the way, for you all good God, for you all what don't understand German, the name Eisenhower literally means iron hewer. Another H-E-W-E-R, hewer. Somebody that in the old days they used to have to, they didn't have dynamite or TNT to blow up the iron into smaller chunks. So what they had to do was use bad language. And then the iron, or they'd tell jokes. And the iron would be so tickled it'd start laughing. And it'd bunch up into smaller pieces. And then the miners, now I don't mean miners as in underage. I mean miners as in men what worked in the mines. Speaking of mines, do you know where The Sound of Music was filmed in Salzburg, Austria? Now, Salzburg comes from the German Salzburg. And Salzburg means, what is it, Salzberg? Well, there's a Salzberg mountain, which means salt mountain. And Salzburg, I guess you could translate that town. Literally, it means a fortified place. Like, well, anyways, you can look it up online what Berg means. B-U-R-G. Berg, B-E-R-G, means mountain. Or you could translate it hill. In certain circumstances, you dig? But Berg, with a U, refers to some kind of settlement. I would translate it town, but it's actually, well, like I said, look it up on the German English-German dictionary. Have y'all noticed that people from Holland and the Netherlands have trouble pronouncing the English SH sound, and they pronounce it like an S? We had a Dutch governor of British Columbia back in the 80s. Oh, they call him the premier, but to me, premier sounds like a communist sucker from the Soviet Union, so I like to call him the governor. But anyways, we had a governor from Holland, and his name was, what was it, Dick Van der Zam? Huh? Bill Van der Zam. Thank you. Bill Van der Zam, and he had a Dutch accent, and he could not, to save his life, pronounce SH sound like we do. He would say instead of British Columbia, he'd say British Columbia. And he always said fantastic. That was his word when people asked him about it. Oh, hello, Mr. Premier. How are you doing? Fantastic. But, you know, my hat is off to Premier Governor Bill Van der Zam, because he was one of our more honest and integrity-full governors. And a few years ago, he led the fight against the tyrant's unfair tax called the HST, which was to replace the grief and suffering tax. This was the tax from hell, the HST. And the former Premier Van der Zalm saved us from that by leading a grassroots campaign that ended up with the then Premier who brought in that hated tax against the will of the people. That boy's name was Gordon Campbell. He had to resign. And by the way, let me tell you about the HST. This is no shit. I'm being serious. And religious folk, if I offended you by using that monosyllabic Anglo-Saxon word that's synonymous with manure, I apologize. Howsoever, the HST slapped new taxes on the poor and middle class, and at the same time gave tax breaks to the rich. I kid you not. Needless to say, the Prime Minister, who had recently won re-election on the promise of not bringing in an HST, brought in the HST 3 weeks after his victory, and within a year, that old boy had to resign because of his lies. But the worst thing that he ever did, Gordon Campbell, by the way, his daddy committed suicide when he was a teenager. And I suggest that Gordon Campbell didn't have all his bells in the belfry. And he needs help, but he don't need to have power over the people, because he really ran roughshod over the poor. What he did, now I'm not poor from circumstances. I practice evangelical poverty, which is roughly akin to Schumacher's philosophy of small is better. Tell that to the girls. See what they have to say. But anyways, evangelical poverty. Let's see if I can get back from this limb, because I'm getting pretty old and I forget where I climbed out to. How do you get back? Evangelical poverty is having just enough to survive. And you can tell by the looks of me, I'm doing a little better than surviving. But plus I have my toys. I've had my computer chair. But I haven't watched TV for a few days, and I'll tell you why. I need another one of them Pennsylvania Dutch mini pretzels. Oh my gosh. I just came from a Wisconsin accent. Oh my gosh. I just realized I don't have no... Now, for all y'all Yankees who think you can understand Southern, tell me what ice code means. Ice code. Well, that's Southern for ice cold, as in an ice cold Coca-Cola. See, you might call people, Yankees and Southerners, two peoples separated by a common language. Okay. Well, I don't know where I started on this, folks, but I do know I need some Coke to go wash down this pretzel. Now I got ice cold Coca-Cola on my mind. Oh, let me tell you what. I went to the Drive yesterday. That's what in Vancouver, they got Commercial Drive, which is sort of like an earthy, trendy, Vancouver, a Canadian version of the West Bank. And the left bank, excuse me, the left bank. I don't need the Palestinians and Israelis coming after me. As if I don't have enough troubles already. The left bank, not the group that sang Pretty Ballerina and Just Walk Away, Renee, but the actual left bank of the Seine River. Now, I always used to pronounce the Seine the Seine River because it's spelled exactly like a German word, Seine, which means his. But it's the Seine. Anywho, again, I forgot what. The Commercial Drive. They sell Mexican Coca-Cola there. And you know about Mexican Coca-Cola. It's in the old glass bottles, thick. And it's made with 100% pure cane sugar, just like our Coca-Cola used to be in the United States and Canada until 1985, when the Coca-Cola company deceptively snookered us with the new Coke, Classic Coke, switcheroo. And they said when they introduced Classic Coke, it wasn't, you know why they didn't call it Original Coke? Because it wasn't the same. Original Coke, the Coca-Cola before the new Coke was brought out, had 100% cane sugar and tasted a certain way. It was good. Long story short, Coke Classic is good, but it's made with high fructose corn syrup. And before they brung out that corn syrup, I was as skinny as a rail. Not quite, but I was only 30 pounds overweight. I'm over 100 pounds overweight now, and I blame that on high fructose corn syrup. No, it's not because of a lack of self-control. I should be able to drink a dozen 12-ounce Coca-Colas a day without gaining an ounce. But Mexican Coke tastes exactly the way our Coke used to taste, pre-85. I didn't even know we were snookered back in the 80s until one day I seen something on Mexican Coca-Cola on YouTube. It's called Mexican Coke is Amazing. Put up by this young man, and he lives in North Carolina, although he don't have a Carolina accent. But anyways, it's a funny video. It's called Mexican Coke is Amazing. And then I did some research on the internet about Mexican Coke, and I found out how the Coca-Cola company stabbed us in the back by changing the recipe. And they started putting that, they took out the cane sugar just to stick it to Castro, you see, because cane sugar was one of his cash crops. But anyway, just to save fractions of a penny. And the only reason corn was cheaper was because it's subsidized by the United States government. But now that they're using it for fuel, I don't know why they, the 11th commandment, fat men must keep their shirts on in public. Anyways, folks, this video is getting a little longish. And I want to go back to sleep because my dreams are better than my reality, except when y'all is here. So I'm going to go back to sleep now and dream about ice cold Coca-Cola. And then I'll wake up in about 3 hours and actually go to the store and get me the same. Oh, here's an interesting thing about variation among Southern dialects. Some Southerners, for the store, going to the store, they'll say stow. Others will say stow. And actually, it's easy to say stoke. So I'll say stow. I go to the store means I am going to the store. I am going to go to the store. You ever wondered why we started using the verb to go to form the future tense? Why can't we say, I shall go to the store? Why do we have to say, I am going to go to the store? Sounds a bit redundant. And we use used to as a substitute for the correct way of forming the past, like, I used to go there. That I went there. No, oh, wait a minute. I'm going to start saying goed instead of went. Because think about the verb to go. Present, past, perfect. Go, went, gone. Where the hell did went come from? It should be go, goed, gone. Am I right or am I right? Am I right or am I right? I got that from that obnoxious insurance guy on Groundhog Day. God bless. Take care. Bye.